Leave if you can't stand my friends. They are real men, she snapped. I smiled coldly. Next day, her 3 lovers got their clinic results. The doctor sighed, "Your diagnosis is..." They froze. I am 35 years old, and for the past 8 years, my alarm has gone off at exactly 3:45 in the morning. While the rest of our upscale suburban neighborhood in Arizona is deeply asleep, tucked under premium weighted blankets and dreaming about their next luxury vacation, I am lacing up my heavy steel-toed work boots. I am a sanitation worker. Or, as my wife's friends prefer to call it when they think I cannot hear them, a garbage man. I drive a massive, diesel-chugging city truck that picks up the refuse of people who make more money in a week than my city paycheck provides in a year. But the truth is, I do not mind the work. It is honest. It keeps me grounded. And most importantly, it gives me 8 uninterrupted hours a day to sit in the cab of my truck, listen to audiobooks on finance and history, and be completely alone with my thoughts. My wife, Sienna, is 33 years old, and her life is the absolute polar opposite of mine. Sienna is a social media lifestyle influencer. Her entire existence revolves around aesthetics, ring lights, engagement metrics, and portraying an image of flawless, effortless luxury. When I come home smelling like diesel fuel and sweat, she is usually posing in our living room in designer athletic wear she got for free, recording videos about wellness, manifestation, and living your authentic truth. The irony of that last part is not lost on me. Our marriage has become a strange, silent arrangement where I am simply the background extra in the movie of her life. I am the guy who takes the trash out, pays the utility bills, and stays out of the camera frame. Sienna treats my job like a dirty little secret. When she is forced to talk about what I do, she uses vague terms like city logistics or environmental management. She thinks my lack of a corporate title or a corner office means I lack ambition. She constantly compares me to the men in her networking circle, men with slicked back hair, leased sports cars, and aggressive networking pitches. What Sienna does not know, what absolutely no one in her superficial world knows, is that I am sitting on a secret. 10 years ago, long before I met Sienna, I started putting a small portion of my army savings into cryptocurrency. It was a gamble, just something I read about on a tech forum. Over the years, I held on to it. I never panicked when the market crashed, and I never bragged when it surged. Today, those digital wallets hold just over $4 million. I am a multimillionaire driving a garbage truck. I could have retired years ago. I could have bought the massive mansion Sienna always cries about not having. So why didn't I tell her? Because over our 6 years of marriage, I watched how she treated people she deemed beneath her. I watched her empathy vanish as her follower count grew. I knew that if I handed her $4 million, it would not buy us happiness. It would just amplify the monster she was slowly becoming. I wanted her to love me for the man in the dirty work boots, the man who brought her coffee every morning and rubbed her shoulders when she was stressed. But sitting in my truck, watching the sunrise over the Arizona desert, I often felt a deep, hollow ache in my chest. I was a ghost in my own life, waiting for a woman who was too busy looking at a screen to notice I was even there. The dinner table used to be a place where people connected. In my house, it was a film set. I remember coming home one Tuesday evening, my muscles aching from hauling heavy bins all day. I walked into the kitchen and the smell of roasted garlic and steak hit me. For a brief second, I thought Sienna had actually cooked for us. Instead, I found her adjusting a massive, glowing ring light over a plate of perfectly arranged food from an expensive local catering service. She did not even look up when the back door closed. She was too busy adjusting the saturation on her phone screen. "How was your day?" I asked, my voice carrying that desperate, quiet hope of a man who just wanted his wife to look at him. "Fine," she muttered, her thumbs flying across her screen. "Wait, do not sit there. You are ruining the background lighting. Move to the left." I sighed, shifting my chair so I was out of the frame. I looked at the food on my plate. It was stone cold. We had to wait 45 minutes to eat, so she could get the perfect angle for her story. "Who are you fighting with in the comments?" I asked gently, trying to bridge the gap. Sienna finally looked up, her eyes flashing with a familiar, petty anger. Cleo. Again. She just signed a sponsorship deal with that organic skincare line I have been pitching for 3 months. It is completely unfair, Vaughn. Her engagement rate is entirely inflated by bots, I know it is. But the brands only look at the top numbers. Cleo was Sienna's absolute nemesis, a slightly younger influencer who always seemed to be one step ahead. Every single day, my house was filled with bitter rants about Cleo's vacations, Cleo's outfits, Cleo's perfect lighting. Maybe you should just focus on your own content, I suggested, taking a bite of the cold steak. You do great work, Sienna. Your audience likes you for you. You don't need to compete with her. Sienna slammed her fork down on the marble island. That is such a loser mentality, Vaughn. That is exactly why you are perfectly happy riding on the back of a garbage truck for the rest of your life. In my world, if you are not hustling, you're dying. You have no drive. You do not understand what it takes to build an empire. The words stung, burying themselves deep in my ribs. I looked at the woman sitting across from me. Her face was contoured to perfection, her hair styled to look effortlessly messy, her entire persona a carefully crafted illusion. I wanted to scream. I wanted to pull out my phone, open my secure digital vault, and show her the $4 million sitting silently in the dark. I wanted to ask her who the real loser was. But I bit my tongue. My military training had taught me patience. It had taught me that reacting on emotion is how you lose the war. I am sorry, I said quietly, focusing back on my plate. You are right. I do not understand your world. She softened just a fraction, reaching out to pat my hand with a patronizing smile. It is okay, Vaughn. You provide stability. That is sweet. But I need to surround myself with people who understand growth. Speaking of which, Trent is hosting a mixer at his gym this Friday. High-level networking. You are coming with me, and please, wear the tailored shirt I bought you, not those awful flannels. I nodded silently, swallowing the dry, cold meat, feeling completely and utterly invisible. Friday night arrived with the suffocating heat typical of an Arizona evening. Trent's gym was not a regular place with rusty weights and chalk on the floor. It was a high-end, exclusive wellness facility with ambient lighting, a juice bar that charged $15 for a smoothie, and monthly membership fees that cost more than a car payment. When Sienna and I walked through the glass double doors, the thumping bass of house music was already vibrating through the floor. The room was packed with exactly the kind of people Sienna idolized. I stood awkwardly by the complimentary water station, holding a plastic cup, observing the room with the quiet vigilance I had learned during my time deployed overseas. You learn a lot about people when you stop talking and just watch. Sienna, of course, had abandoned me within 30 seconds of arriving. She was currently holding court near the squat racks, laughing way too loudly, tossing her hair over her shoulder. Standing right in front of her, practically trapping her against the equipment with his massive frame, was Trent. Trent was a 36-year-old personal trainer who looked like a walking advertisement for questionable supplements. He had muscles layered on top of muscles, veins popping out of his neck, and a smile that reeked of manufactured arrogance. He was speaking softly to Sienna, leaning in close, invading her personal space in a way that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Vaughn. My man, a loud, grating voice interrupted my thoughts. I turned to see Gavin strutting toward me, holding a lowball glass of expensive whiskey. Gavin was 34, wore suits without socks, and talked constantly about leverage, blockchain, and disruptive market forces. He was a crypto day trader who acted like he had invented money itself. How is the trash business? Still picking up the scraps, he laughed, slapping my shoulder a little too hard. It pays the bills, Gavin, I replied, keeping my voice perfectly neutral. Right. Slow and steady, Gavin smirked. You should let me look at your retirement portfolio sometime. I could take your little pension and double it in a month using some new offshore algorithms. But hey, not everyone has the stomach for real risk. Before I could politely decline, a third man slid into the conversation. Preston. 38 years old, smelling strongly of designer cologne, with perfectly capped white teeth. Preston was a luxury real estate agent who specialized in selling overpriced modern boxes to people who could not actually afford them. "Leave the poor guy alone, Gavin," Preston said, though his tone was dripping with condescension. "Vaughn likes his simple life. Not everyone needs to conquer the world. Right, buddy?" They stood there, the three of them, Trent over by the weights, Gavin and Preston flanking me, projecting this overwhelming aura of toxic superiority. They looked at me the way you look at a slow-witted child. But what bothered me more was how they looked at my wife. When Sienna finally walked over to us, the energy in the circle shifted. The three men puffed their chests out. They made inside jokes. They referenced lunches and late-night business calls that I knew absolutely nothing about. I was her husband, but standing in that circle, I felt like a stranger who had crashed their private party. By midnight, the gym was finally clearing out. The music had been turned down, and the staff was wiping down the equipment. I was exhausted, my head pounding from the thumping bass and the forced, fake smiles I had been plastering on my face for hours. I found Sienna near the entrance, chatting animatedly with Trent. "Ready to go?" I asked, putting a hand lightly on the small of her back. Sienna stepped away from my touch so fast you would have thought I burned her. She looked annoyed. "Actually, I am going to stay for a bit. Trent needs help breaking down the audio equipment and going over some promotional ideas for next month. You go ahead, Vaughn. You have to be up at 3 anyway." I looked around. There were 3 actual gym employees currently cleaning the space. "Sienna, the staff is handling it. Let's just go home. It is late." Trent stepped forward, his massive chest puffed out, a condescending smirk playing on his lips. "Hey man, do not worry about her. I will make sure she gets home safe. We just have some high-level strategy to discuss. Brand synergy, you know? Not really in your wheelhouse." I stared at Trent. I felt a slow, dangerous heat rising in my chest, a primal instinct screaming that something was fundamentally wrong. But I looked at my wife, and her eyes were cold, daring me to make a scene in front of her idol. "Fine," I said softly. I turned and walked out the glass doors alone. The drive home was suffocating. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. When Sienna finally got home at 2 in the morning, I was sitting in the dark on the living room sofa. "What are you doing sitting in the dark like a psycho?" she snapped, dropping her designer bag on the floor. "I was waiting for you," I said evenly. "Sienna, I do not like the way Trent talks to me. And I do not like the way you act around him." She let out a dramatic, exasperated sigh, rolling her eyes toward the ceiling. "Oh my God, Vaughn. Are we really doing this? Are you seriously doing the whole insecure, jealous husband routine right now? It is pathetic. It is not jealousy. It is respect. I am your husband. And Trent is my business partner. He is helping me build my brand. He is a real man who understands ambition. If you cannot handle me being around successful people, if you cannot stand my friends, then leave. Just leave. Because I am not going to apologize for networking just because you are intimidated by actual men." She stormed upstairs, slamming the bedroom door so hard the framed pictures on the hallway wall rattled. I sat in the darkness for a long time. The silence of the house pressed against my eardrums. She was using classic psychological manipulation. Gaslighting. Deflecting. Making me feel crazy for noticing the obvious. But my time in the military had taught me one undeniable truth. When the enemy tells you are crazy for checking your perimeter, that is exactly when they are planning to attack. I pulled out my phone. I didn't look at my crypto portfolio. I opened a massive online retailer. I searched for digital audio recorders. I found a small, black, voice-activated device with a battery that lasted for 7 days on a single charge. I paid for expedited overnight shipping. I was done being the paranoid husband. It was time to gather the intelligence. The package arrived 2 days later while Sienna was out getting her nails done. I took the device out of its plain brown box. It was no bigger than a pack of gum, pitch black, with no flashing lights to give away its location. I activated the battery, tested the audio quality by whispering from across the room, and then walked into our master bedroom. I felt a sickening twist in my gut, a wave of profound guilt for violating the sanctity of my own home. But the memory of Trent's condescending smirk pushed the guilt aside. I took a piece of double-sided industrial tape and secured the small microphone to the back of the heavy oak dresser, facing the bed. It was completely invisible. For 3 agonizing days, I lived in a state of suspended animation. I went to work. I drove the garbage truck. I came home, ate dinner, and acted perfectly normal. Every morning, after Sienna left for her daily Pilates class, I would retrieve the device, plug it into my encrypted laptop, and listen. For 3 days, there was nothing. Just the sound of us talking about groceries, the television playing in the background, the sound of the air conditioning unit turning on and off. I started to hate myself. I started to believe her narrative. I was a paranoid, insecure loser trying to sabotage my beautiful, successful wife. Then came the 4th day. It was a Thursday. Sienna had told me over breakfast that she had a crucial, all-day content strategy meeting in the city and would not be home until very late. She kissed me on the cheek, told me to order a pizza for dinner, and drove off. I went to work. I came home to an empty house. I slept alone. The next morning, Friday, after she drove away to the gym, I went straight to the dresser. My hands were shaking as I pulled the device free. I plugged it into my laptop. The audio file for Thursday afternoon was over 2 hours long. I put my noise-canceling headphones on. I hit play. At first, there was just the sound of the front door opening and closing. Then Sienna's voice, accompanied by a low, masculine chuckle that I instantly recognized. It was Trent. "Are you sure he is not coming back?" Trent's voice echoed through my headphones, sounding distorted but undeniably clear. "Vaughn? Please," Sienna laughed, and the sound of that laugh, so cruel, so dismissive, felt like a physical knife sliding into my stomach. "He is on his little garbage route until 4. Even if he finished early, he is too predictable. He would never check up on me. He trusts me completely. He is so clueless." I stopped breathing. The audio continued. I heard the rustling of fabric. I heard the creak of my own mattress. And then I heard the undeniable, horrific sounds of my wife giving herself completely to another man in the bed we shared. I heard her say things to him she had not said to me in years. I heard her praise his strength, his ambition, his body. I sat in the chair at my desk, paralyzed, the audio washing over me like a flood of toxic waste. When the tape finally went silent, I did not scream. I did not throw the laptop against the wall. I slowly took the headphones off and laid them on the desk. I walked to the bathroom, gripped the edges of the porcelain sink, and stared at my reflection. My face was completely pale. My eyes were bloodshot. I fell to my knees on the cold tile floor, bent over, and vomited until there was nothing left in my stomach. I cried. I sobbed for the woman I thought I had married, for the life I thought we were building, for the 6 years of quiet devotion I had poured into a black hole. I let myself be the broken, betrayed husband for exactly 20 minutes. And then, the tears stopped. The man who loved Sienna died on that bathroom floor. When I stood up and washed my face, the man looking back at me in the mirror was cold, calculating, and absolutely empty of mercy. If I had confronted her that day, it would have been a screaming match. She would have cried, denied, manipulated, and eventually blamed me for pushing her away. She would have taken half of everything I owned in a messy divorce and spun a narrative online about surviving a toxic marriage. I was not going to let that happen. I put the recorder back behind the dresser. I ordered 2 more identical devices and hid them in her home office and the living room. Over the next 3 weeks, I became a ghost haunting my own life. I smiled at her over dinner. I asked about her day. I washed her car. And every morning I listened to the tapes. What I discovered over those 21 days was worse than a simple affair. It was a coordinated, systematic campaign of humiliation. It wasn't just Trent. On the 2nd week of recording, the heavy footsteps entering my house did not belong to the gym trainer. They belonged to Gavin. I listened in silent horror as my wife discussed her financial insecurities with the crypto trader, right before taking him to our bedroom. Gavin laughed about my job, calling me a peasant while he laid in my bed. 5 days later, it was Preston. The real estate agent brought expensive champagne into my living room. On the audio, I heard Preston ask, "Does Trent know I am taking his slot this week?" Sienna giggled. "Trent is busy with his gym. Besides, you guys are all my boys. You know the arrangement." They knew. All three of them knew about each other. They were sharing my wife like a communal trophy. They had a running group chat, which Sienna read aloud on one of the tapes, where they coordinated their schedules to ensure they never accidentally ran into each other at my house. In that chat, they referred to me exclusively as the furniture. "The furniture is out on the truck. Make sure you don't leave a mess. The furniture gets annoyed." The sheer magnitude of the disrespect was breathtaking. They viewed me as a non-entity, a pathetic, domestic servant who paid the mortgage and provided a clean facility for their entertainment. My military logistics training took over completely. I bought a cheap, untraceable prepaid phone and a physical notebook. I began cross-referencing Sienna's digital calendar, her fake content meeting excuses, and the audio timestamps. I mapped their entire operation. I knew exactly which days Trent came over. I knew Gavin preferred Thursday afternoons. I knew Preston only came on weekends when I was running errands. I built a perfect, undeniable timeline of their betrayals. I didn't have a wife anymore. I had an infestation of rats. And to clear out rats, you do not use a hammer. You use poison. You feed them something sweet, and you wait for them to carry it back to their nests. Before I could spring any kind of trap, I needed to protect my flank. Sienna was greedy, and if she caught wind that a divorce was coming, she would scour our finances looking for a payout. While sitting in the cab of my garbage truck during my lunch breaks, I began doing deep, intense research into the public records of my three enemies. If they were going to play in my house, I was going to look into theirs. What I found was a spectacular illusion. They projected immense wealth, but behind the scenes, they were drowning. Trent's high-end gym was bleeding money. Public county records showed he was 3 months behind on his commercial property taxes, and he had multiple liens against his business equipment from unpaid lenders. He was a few bad weeks away from bankruptcy. Gavin, the brilliant crypto trader who called me a peasant, was heavily overleveraged. He was trading on massive margin accounts. One major market dip, and he would be wiped out entirely, owing hundreds of thousands of dollars to his brokers. And Preston? A quick search through the State Real Estate Commission database revealed 2 active, pending investigations against him for falsifying zoning permits and failing to disclose property damage to buyers. They were not successful alpha males. They were desperate con artists holding onto their lifestyles by their fingernails. With their weaknesses identified, I moved to secure my own strength. I contacted a high-level corporate attorney 3 states away. Using a small portion of my crypto stash, I established an anonymous limited liability company based in Wyoming, a state known for its ironclad privacy laws regarding corporate ownership. I transferred all $4 million of my digital assets directly into cold storage hardware wallets, legally owned by the LLC. To anyone looking at my personal social security number, I was just Vaughn, a sanitation worker with $5,000 in a checking account and a modest pension plan. I was legally bulletproof. Finally, using the LLC, I signed a 1-year lease on a beautiful, minimalist luxury apartment on the other side of the city. I quietly began moving my most irreplaceable items, my grandfather's watch, my military service medals, my essential documents, into a secure safe at the new apartment. The battlefield was prepped. The assets were secured. The enemy's weaknesses were exposed. It was time to build the Trojan horse. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below telling us which city you are watching from. Every single comment helps push this video to more people who love justice. Stick around for part 2, where the trap finally snaps shut on all of them. Every military operation requires an inside operative, someone who can breach the enemy's defenses without raising suspicion. I needed a medical professional who was competent enough to pull off a legitimate health screening, but desperate enough to look the other way when it came to delivering the results. I found my operative at a small, independent coffee shop on the edge of town. Her name was Nadia. Nadia was 29 years old, a former certified medical technician and phlebotomist. We had struck up a casual, polite friendship over the months because I always stopped at her coffee shop at 4 in the morning before my garbage route began. About 8 months ago, I noticed she looked completely exhausted, crying quietly behind the espresso machine. I pressed her, and she confessed that a minor traffic violation had snowballed into massive court fines and a suspended license, which in turn caused her to lose her clinic job. She was drowning in debt and facing potential jail time for failure to pay. I did not say much that morning, but the next day I anonymously paid her entire court balance through a cashier's check. She never knew it was me, but I knew I had secured a moral debt that I could call in when the time was right. I walked into the coffee shop on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Nadia was wiping down the counter. I ordered a black coffee and asked if we could talk in the back alley for 5 minutes. She looked confused but agreed. Standing next to the commercial dumpsters, I laid my cards on the table. I told her I was the one who paid her court fines. She gasped, tears immediately welling in her eyes, thanking me profusely. I held up my hand to stop her. "I need a favor, Nadia," I said, keeping my voice low and steady. "I need to hire you for a private medical consultation event. It will be completely off the books. I am going to pay you $50,000 in cash." Her jaw dropped. "50,000? Vaughn, what kind of illegal stuff are you asking me to do? I cannot go to jail." "Nothing illegal," I assured her. "I want you to set up a legitimate men's wellness screening at a local gym. You will draw real blood, run real standard panels through a third-party lab, and provide real, accurate paperwork. But when you sit down for the private verbal consultations with 3 specific men, I need you to lie to their faces. I need you to emphasize extreme risk factors. I need you to create a terrifying sense of urgency." Nadia stared at me, studying my face. She was smart. She saw the coldness in my eyes. "This is about your wife, isn't it?" she asked quietly. "And those guys from the gym." I did not deny it. "Are you interested? You get to clear your debts, start fresh, and no one gets physically hurt. Just egos and reputations." She took a deep breath, looking around the dirty alleyway, thinking about the thousands of coffees she would have to pour to ever see that kind of money. "I will not falsify the written medical records," she said firmly. "That is a felony." "You don't have to," I replied, smiling for the first time in weeks. "The written records will be clean." But people do not read the fine print when a professional in a white coat looks them in the eye and tells them their life is falling apart. You just have to be a good actress for 10 minutes. Nadia nodded slowly. "Okay, tell me exactly what I need to say." With my operative secured, I needed to set the stage. The beauty of this plan was that I did not have to force anything. I just had to plant a seed and let Sienna's massive, unchecked ego do the rest of the work. We were sitting in the living room on a Sunday morning. Sienna was aggressively scrolling through her phone, complaining that her engagement numbers were down for the month. "People are getting bored of just workout routines and diet teas," she sighed dramatically. "I need something bigger. Something that shows I am a thought leader in the wellness space. Cleo just did a charity walk for animal rescue, and she is getting praised like a saint." I looked up from my newspaper. "Why don't you do something focused on men's health?" I suggested casually. "It is an underserved market on your page. You could partner with Trent's Gym, host a free wellness and screening initiative. It shows you care about the community, and it drives foot traffic to Trent's business. It is a win-win." Sienna paused, her eyes widening as the idea took root in her manipulative brain. She immediately saw the potential for praise, sponsorships, and a perfectly curated video montage of her looking caring and philanthropic. "That is actually brilliant, Vaughn," she said, already typing furiously on her phone. "A free health clinic day. We could offer blood pressure checks, cholesterol panels, maybe even standard STD screenings to promote safe wellness. Trent would absolutely love this." The only issue is funding, I noted, playing the role of the practical, boring husband perfectly. A mobile lab and a technician will cost thousands. Does Trent have that kind of capital right now? I knew for a fact Trent did not have $100 to spare, let alone thousands. Sienna frowned, biting her lip. No, he is expanding his equipment line. He is cash poor at the moment. I don't have the budget for it either right now, not with the new camera gear I just bought. I folded my newspaper and leaned forward. I have some savings, I said softly. From my overtime pay and my military pension. I want to support your dreams, Sienna. I really believe in this initiative. How much do you need to make it happen? She looked at me, and for a split second, I saw a flicker of genuine guilt cross her face. She was planning to use this event to boost her profile and hang out with the man she was sleeping with, and her husband was offering to pay for it with his garbage truck salary. But the guilt vanished as quickly as it appeared, swallowed whole by her narcissism. Maybe 10,000, she asked, testing the waters. How about 25,000? I countered. Do it right. Hire a premium mobile lab. Make it a huge, catered event. Her face lit up like a child on Christmas morning. Oh my God, Vaughn. Really? You would do that for me? She rushed over and threw her arms around my neck, kissing my cheek. I hugged her back, feeling absolutely nothing but the cold satisfaction of a trap snapping shut. I went to the bank the next day, withdrew $25,000 from a secure account, and handed it to her in a manila envelope. I was literally funding my own revenge, and she was too blind to see the guillotine hanging over her head. The Men's Wellness Initiative launched 3 weeks later with the kind of obnoxious, self-congratulatory fanfare that only social media influencers can muster. Sienna had hyped the event daily, posting emotional videos about the importance of proactive health monitoring. The local response was massive. Trent's gym was packed with local businessmen, fitness enthusiasts, and loyal followers eager to get free premium health screenings. I arrived early, wearing a plain gray t-shirt and jeans, carrying a clipboard to look busy. My official role, according to Sienna, was to handle logistics, which meant managing the trash cans, wiping up spilled energy drinks, and staying entirely out of the background of her photos. It was the perfect camouflage. No one pays attention to the janitor. Nadia had set up an immaculate mobile clinic in the back studio of the gym. She wore crisp, professional scrubs, a white lab coat, and a badge that looked incredibly official. She had brought 2 assistants to draw blood, process paperwork, and handle the crowds. She looked completely legitimate. From my vantage point near the juice bar, I watched the 3 targets arrive. Trent, Gavin, and Preston walked the gym floor like they owned the city. They were laughing loudly, slapping each other on the back, and basking in the attention of the crowd. They were the very picture of arrogant, untouchable vitality. This is genius, Gavin told Trent, holding a green smoothie. Sienna really outdid herself. The foot traffic in here is insane. You are going to convert at least 50 new memberships today. I know, Trent grinned, flexing his massive biceps as he adjusted his tight shirt. She is the total package, man. Smart, beautiful, and knows how to draw a crowd. Preston chuckled darkly, lowering his voice just enough that normal people wouldn't hear, but a man trained to listen certainly would. Yeah, she is the gift that keeps on giving. Let's go get our blood drawn, boys. Show the peasants what peak alpha genetics look like. I watched them strut into the back studio. They sat in the medical chairs, rolling up their sleeves with absolute confidence. They joked with Nadia, flirting inappropriately while she prepped their arms with alcohol swabs. They were so sure of themselves. They had spent months sharing my wife, laughing at my expense, and living lives built entirely on lies and deceit, without ever facing a single consequence. I watched the dark red blood fill the small glass vials. I felt a profound sense of calm wash over me. The hardest part of the operation was over. The Trojan horse was inside the city walls. The poison was in the water supply. Now, all I had to do was sit back and wait for the fever to take hold. I picked up a spray bottle and a rag, turned my back on them, and continued wiping down the gym equipment, counting the days until their world would completely and violently end. For days later, the trap sprang. Sienna had advertised that all attendees would receive a private, confidential phone call or in-person consultation regarding their results. The gym was quiet on Thursday afternoon when Trent, Gavin, and Preston were scheduled for their follow-ups. They had demanded to go together, treating the results like a victory lap for their superior health. Nadia had set up a temporary office in Trent's private managerial suite. I was sitting in my garbage truck 2 miles away, listening in real time through the audio bug I had previously planted under Trent's mahogany desk. Trent went first. He walked in, heavily confident. "So, Doc, how perfect are my levels? Testosterone through the roof, right?" Nadia's voice was a masterclass in clinical gravity. She did not sound angry or dramatic. She sounded deeply, professionally concerned. "Mr. Martinez, please take a seat," she began, her tone instantly freezing the smile on Trent's face. "Your general panels are fine. However, your specialized STD screening came back with some highly concerning markers." "Wait, what?" Trent stammered, the bravado evaporating instantly. "That is impossible. I am clean. I feel completely fine." "That is the insidious nature of this specific pathogen," Nadia replied smoothly, using the medical jargon we had rehearsed. "You tested positive for a highly aggressive, asymptomatic strain of human papillomavirus. It does not present visible symptoms in men, but it is incredibly destructive. Furthermore, your white blood cell count indicates your body is fighting a secondary, deep tissue bacterial infection that is highly contagious." "Contagious?" Trent's voice cracked. "Like, how contagious?" "Extremely," Nadia said firmly. "I am prescribing an aggressive course of broad-spectrum antibiotics. But more importantly, ethically and legally, you must immediately inform every single sexual partner you have had in the last 6 months. They need to be tested immediately. If a woman contracts this specific strain, it can lead to severe, irreversible reproductive damage." The silence on the audio feed was deafening. Trent was hyperventilating. 10 minutes later, it was Gavin's turn. Nadia hit him with a different angle. "Mr. Vance, your results show a severe, late-stage chlamydia infection that has migrated into your upper urinary tract. You are entirely asymptomatic, which is rare but dangerous. If left untreated for another month, you are looking at permanent sterility." Gavin actually began to cry, begging for medication. Finally, Preston sat in the chair. Nadia delivered the killing blow. "Your blood work indicates exposure to a rare, antibiotic-resistant protozoan parasite, typically transmitted through shared bodily fluids. We need to begin aggressive treatment immediately." "Who have you been sleeping with, Mr. Hayes? Because this requires immediate contact tracing." By the time all 3 men had received their fake diagnoses, the atmosphere in the gym office was toxic. They were handed real, harmless vitamin supplements disguised in generic prescription bottles, told to abstain from any physical contact, and urged to confess to their partners. I sat in my truck, staring out at the hot Arizona asphalt, and smiled. I had not laid a single finger on any of them. I had not raised my voice. I had simply used a woman in a white coat to hand them a piece of paper that confirmed their deepest, darkest fears. The paranoia was now injected directly into their veins. Panic is a fascinating thing to observe. When a person's survival instinct overrides their logic, all their carefully constructed social masks dissolve. The brotherhood these 3 men claimed to share vanished within exactly 45 minutes of leaving that medical office. I knew this because my laptop was open on the passenger seat of my truck, actively monitoring the group chat through the spyware I had installed on Sienna's home network. The first text came from Trent. It was frantic, typed in all caps. "Emergency. Get to my apartment now. We have a massive problem." Within the hour, the audio bug I had slipped into the lining of Sienna's gym bag, which she had conveniently left at Trent's apartment the night before, picked up the chaotic sounds of a war council. Gavin and Preston burst through the door, demanding answers. "What the hell is going on?" Preston yelled. "That nurse just told me I have some kind of super parasite. She told me I have late-stage chlamydia." Gavin screamed, his voice pitching high with terror. "I am going to be sterile. My fiancé is going to kill me. We are supposed to get married in 3 months. Shut up, both of you. Trent roared, pacing heavily across the hardwood floor. I tested positive for a silent strain of HPV. Do you understand what this means? We are all infected. All of us. There was a pregnant pause. The realization slowly dawned on them, heavy and suffocating in the room. Sienna, Preston whispered, the horror evident in his voice. We have all been sleeping with Sienna. That dirty, lying. Gavin started cursing violently. She gave it to us. Or one of you gave it to her, and she passed it to the rest of us. You guys are disgusting. Who else have you been sleeping with? Me? Trent exploded, throwing something that sounded like a glass against the wall. You are the one who goes to those sketchy underground clubs, Gavin. You brought this into our circle. You infected my girl. Your girl. Preston laughed, a manic, hysterical sound. She is Vaughn's wife, you idiot. And we have all been using her. Oh my God, what if Vaughn has it? What if Vaughn gets tested and traces it back to us? Vaughn is a moron, Trent snapped, though he sounded terrified. He doesn't know anything. He is too busy riding his garbage truck. We need to confront Sienna. We need to figure out who patient zero is. They spent the next 2 hours tearing each other apart. They threatened lawsuits. They threatened physical violence. The fake alpha male, bravado completely crumbled, revealing 3 terrified, selfish cowards desperately trying to avoid responsibility. They blamed Sienna. They called her names that I wouldn't repeat. They discussed how to abandon her, how to ghost her completely to save their own reputations. Listening to them turn on my wife was slightly poetic, but it did not make me feel sorry for her. She had chosen to lie with dogs. She was waking up with fleas. The loyalty among thieves is non-existent when the sirens start blaring. I closed my laptop. The internal destruction was complete. It was time to pull the trigger on the external destruction. A secret is only powerful if it remains hidden. The moment it touches the light, it burns everything around it. I was ready to start the fire. I drove to a public library 3 towns over, using a computer terminal and a virtual private network, VPN, to ensure my digital footprint was completely untraceable. I created an anonymous email account. My first target was the local fitness and lifestyle blogs. Trent's gym survived on its elite, clean reputation. I drafted a concise, highly detailed tip outlining a severe, uncontained outbreak of multiple infectious diseases originating from the management at the gym. I did not name Trent explicitly, but I provided enough context about the recent men's wellness initiative that any journalist could connect the dots. I hit send. Next, I targeted Sienna's greatest vulnerability, her public image. I opened a new email thread and addressed it to Cleo, the rival influencer Sienna despised with every fiber of her being. The subject line was simple: authenticity. In the body of the email, I wrote, "You have always suspected Sienna's brand is built on lies. Here is the proof. Do what you want with it." I attached 3 highly edited audio files. I did not include the audio of the sexual affairs. That was reserved for the grand finale. Instead, I sent the clips of Sienna viciously mocking her own audience. I sent the tape where she laughed about taking $25,000 from her pathetic, garbage man husband to fund her vanity project. I sent the recording of her admitting that she manipulated her engagement metrics and bought fake followers to steal sponsorships from other creators. I sent the emails and walked away. The internet operates faster than a wildfire. Within 24 hours, a prominent local health blog published an article titled, "Toxic Iron. Is your luxury gym hiding a public health crisis?" The article went viral locally. Trent's phone started ringing off the hook with members demanding answers and canceling their subscriptions. But that was nothing compared to the nuclear bomb Cleo dropped. 48 hours after I sent the email, Cleo uploaded a 30-minute video to her channel titled, "The Truth About Fake Influencers, Exposing Sienna." Cleo did not hold back. She played the audio clips of my wife's cruel, arrogant voice for an audience of 3 million subscribers. Sienna's empire collapsed overnight. My phone buzzed constantly with news alerts as her major sponsors released public statements cutting ties with her brand. Her comment sections were flooded with thousands of angry, betrayed fans. I walked into our house that evening to find Sienna curled on the living room floor, sobbing hysterically, surrounded by crumpled tissues. She looked up at me, her face smeared with expensive mascara. "Vaughn," she choked out. "Someone hacked me. Someone is trying to destroy my life. Everything is gone. My sponsorships, my followers. Everyone hates me." I knelt down beside her, keeping my face perfectly composed, the concerned, loving husband to the very end. "It is going to be okay," I lied smoothly. "We will figure this out. Trent is hosting a town hall meeting at the gym tomorrow night to clear up those health rumors. We will go together. We will face this together." She clung to my shirt, crying into my chest. I stared blankly at the wall over her shoulder, feeling absolutely nothing. The town hall at the gym was standing room only. Members were furious, demanding to know if the health rumors were true. Trent stood at the front of the studio, sweating through his shirt, gripping a microphone. Gavin and Preston were standing near the back, looking like trapped animals. Sienna stood beside me near the soundboard, wearing dark sunglasses, trying to hide her face from the whispers of the crowd. "Please, everyone, settle down," Trent shouted into the microphone, his voice trembling. "The rumors online are entirely false. This gym is perfectly clean. The wellness initiative was a massive success, and there is no health crisis." "Then why are people saying the trainers are infected?" a woman yelled from the crowd. "We pay $500 a month for this place." Trent swallowed hard. "It is a smear campaign. Someone is trying to sabotage our community." It was time. I stepped away from Sienna, pulled out my encrypted phone, and bypassed the gym's insecure Bluetooth sound system, a trick I had learned in military communications. I cranked the master volume on the massive studio speakers to maximum. I hit play on the final, unedited audio file. Suddenly, Trent's voice boomed over the speakers, not from his microphone, but from the recording. "Are you sure he is not coming back?" Then Sienna's voice, crystal clear and full of mockery. "Vaughn? Please. He is on his little garbage route. He is so clueless." The entire gym went dead silent. The blood drained from Sienna's face. She ripped off her sunglasses, staring at the speakers in sheer, unadulterated horror. The audio shifted. It played the disgusting, graphic sounds of their betrayal. Then it cut to Gavin laughing about sleeping in the peasant's bed. Then it cut to the group chat audio of Preston calling me the furniture. Finally, it played the recording of the three men in Trent's apartment, screaming at each other about having chlamydia and HPV, explicitly confirming they had all been sleeping with Sienna and trading diseases. Every single person in the room pulled out their phones and started recording. The destruction was live, public, and absolute. Trent's eyes locked onto me standing by the soundboard. The realization hit him like a freight train. He dropped his microphone, his face twisting into a mask of pure, violent rage. He charged across the room, a 250-pound wall of muscle aiming right for my head. "You," he roared. I did not flinch. As he swung a massive, clumsy right hook, my military combat training instinctively took over. I stepped sharply to the left, grabbed his wrist, used his own momentum against him, and drove my elbow hard into the back of his shoulder. Trent crashed violently headfirst into a heavy metal dumbbell rack. The metallic clang echoed through the room. He crumpled to the floor, groaning in pain and humiliation, his nose bleeding profusely onto the rubber mats. I straightened my jacket, looked at Sienna, who was trembling, unable to speak, destroyed by her own vanity, and walked out the glass doors into the cool evening air. 3 months later, we sat in a sterile courtroom for the divorce settlement. Sienna, looking haggard and broken, had demanded massive alimony. She claimed she was the primary earner and that I had maliciously destroyed her career. Her cheap lawyer smirked at me. Then, my attorney, Eva Darnell, the most ruthless, expensive divorce lawyer in the state, opened her briefcase. She handed the judge a single document. It was the financial audit of my Wyoming LLC. "Your Honor," Eva said coldly. My client's wife is under the delusion that she supported him. In reality, Mr. Vaughn possesses a secured, premarital asset portfolio consisting of over $4 million in cryptocurrency. He has been silently funding her lifestyle for years. Furthermore, due to the explicit, documented infidelity, we are petitioning for a total forfeiture of any marital support. Sienna's jaw practically hit the floor. The realization that the garbage man she had mocked for 6 years was a multimillionaire and that she was getting absolutely none of it caused her to visibly hyperventilate. She left the courtroom with $0, 0 followers, and a mountain of legal debt. Trent's gym went bankrupt. Gavin lost his trading license. Preston's real estate career was destroyed by the state investigation. Later that evening, I sat on the balcony of my new, minimalist luxury apartment, pouring a glass of expensive red wine. The doorbell rang. It was Cleo, smiling warmly, holding a box of takeout. We had started dating slowly, built on mutual respect and absolute honesty. I looked out over the city's skyline, finally visible, finally in control, and finally at peace. Looking back at the wreckage they brought upon themselves, part of me wonders if setting that trap was stepping over the line. But then I remember the sound of their laughter while I was working to provide for us. Am I wrong for taking it this far, or did they get exactly what they deserved? Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button and ring the bell so you never miss another story. Leave your verdict in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.